Vamos a comenzar fuera del caso, igual, digo, ya que ninguno lo tiene, en la unidad 3, ¿ok?
Ajá. Ah, ok.
Les voy a dar una breve introducción, igual les voy a hacer unas preguntas para a ustedes como ingenieros del tema, y pues de ahí vamos a empezar a desarrollar el tema, ¿verdad?
Ok.
Tal vez ya han estado un poco familiarizados con el tema, tal vez no, ya lo van a descubrir conforme vayamos avanzando. ¿Ok?
Ujú.
Bien. Entonces, ¿estamos listos para empezar?
¿Listos?
¿Sí, Josué?
Sí, sí.
Ok. So, components and assemblies. That's the subject that we are going to start in this new topic, as you can see. You might be familiar with the words components and assemblies. And just for us to introduce this subject, I want to tell you the four different, let's say, objectives of this unit in this case. We have four main topics to talk and discuss and investigate during this session. The first one is to learn to describe component shapes and features. You might know that when we talk, for example, about machines, tools, those machines and those tools, of course, they have it's their component because they're divided in different features. And that's what we need to know, how to describe that machine, how to describe that tool. Now, our second objective from this part is to explain and assess the manufacturing techniques. As known as the components and shapes, we talk about production, assessment, and design of a machine, of a tool, of a product, of anything you want to talk about. Yes?
Systems, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we have to take in
Well,
mind all the different subjects. Yes, Josue?
sorry for the interruption.
Uh-huh.
In the point one,
Mm-hmm.
describing component shapes and features. Well, in my mind, in my world, I'm imagine that could be like breaks, angles, and esboss or engrave or I don't know, curves and
Uh-huh.
fillets, holes, threads, and ribs. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm imagining that these shapes and futures are more component level
Okay.
or element level.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Actually, during this section, you will find the following vocabulary useful, such as layouts, profiles, configurations, and of course the shapes, such as circular, rounded, rectangular, cylindrical, linear, triangular.
Schematics, like
Mm-hmm.
schematics or. Uh-huh.
Yes, talking about the physical appearance of something.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. So those are the first two, let's say, subjects that we are going to talk about during this unit. The third one, as you can see, it says explaining joining and fixing techniques. I
Mhm.
think you engineers are accustomed to this vocabulary, the jointing and the fixing.
Mhm.
Talking about machines, tools, or the product or the design that you do in your own factory or your own industry.
Yes, it's very common is that
Mm-hmm.
in our area.
Yes.
Okay, I think it's the
Mhm.
same for both of you. Great. Now, we can also find as the last subject of this unit, the describing position of assembled components. Okay, talking about the same tools, we know that the tools are components. The components are things that are, let's say, features that are assembled together to create a component. So we have to describe position of assembled components in this case. Mhm. That's the
Okay.
main idea of this thinking here. So knowing these four topics or these four main objectives, The first part, as you see, it's describing component shapes and features. Now, the idea of this section, it's the aim to deal with essential language for describing two-dimensional and three-dimensional components and assemblies. So we're talking about two dimensions and three dimensions components, okay? And tools and whatever you want to know about it. That's one of the first keys of this part. And of course, discussions using this type of language are commonplace in technical occupations. We can talk about technical people, the technicians and stuff like that. They are so accustomed to this part, to this vocabulary. So actually, it's commonplace in technical occupations both at design stage and during the assembly and production. Okay, so this vocabulary, this knowledge, it's useful in both parts, at the design and during the production of the tool, of the machine, of the service, of the process, of whatever you want to, or you want to
Devices, etc. Yes.
devices, electronical outputs, electronical
Yes.
devices. I think you're a little bit more accustomed to this than me. So, knowing this, and you know that we are going to talk about components, features, assemblies, I sum up this to some basic questions. The first one, it's what is meant by components and assemblies? What do you understand? What do you think of components and assemblies? And I want to listen both opinions of you. So please just tell me, Juan, what it's the mean for you as components and assemblies?
Okay. Well, maybe for me, one component is a part of the assembly. In my, I have seen in my case on the job or on the job, and well, I understand like circuits or cards, green cards like that in the display. That's a component because they have several parts that apply or identify one set or assembly.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
I think that's the difference. I think that's the difference. I can see one assembly when I see one system. I mean, in my case, hydraulic system. Well,
Okay.
hydraulic system is it's a. I mean, well, they have several or various components like pumps, hoses, plugs. I don't know, different accessories.
Okay, that was great point of
Like
view.
that.
Great,
So,
thank you. Josue, what about you? What is for you a component and an assembly? Seeing from your specific work area. Josue?
Sorry, my estaba en mute. En mute.
Okay.
Well, in components, it refers about the element as usual.
Okay.
And assemblies, well, different components, assemblies all localized and over, over, for example, component one over component two or throw component two or component one. Uh, so it refers or it means that this, the keywords is the location of the group components. group or subgroup
Uh-huh.
components.
Okay.
And that's it.
Thank you. So we can resume that components in assembly, they are related, of course, but we can say, for example, let me use something really common for us, the cars. You know a car and you have a
Mhm.
car. So a component is an individual part, such as a wheel of a car.
Mhm.
That's a component, a wheel of a car. The car has four wheels. And an assembly is a number of components that have been put together. That means that have been assembled together. An
Mhm.
example in a car would be the car engine. The car engine is an assembly of hundreds of components like pistons, shaft, electronic components, and stuff like that.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, the engine could
The giant.
be an assembly, or
Yes.
could be an
Yes.
assembly.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking just in the part of system. No, I think
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yes.
Mhm.
Then this take us to another question. What's the connection between the two? What's the connection between components and assemblies? And I think you mentioned it before. That the
I
real
think it.
uh-huh.
I think
That
it's
it
direct.
that
Oh
you
yes.
can continue.
I
Oh
think it's
uh-huh. Go on.
directly related between the two. It's related. They are related because one component need to the assembly for function or try to work in equipment
Mm-hmm.
or system.
Okay. And what about you, Josue?
Well, this usual the component and assembly
Mm-hmm.
elements has shapes, features, materials, and textures or something like that.
Okay.
So that could be the main, it's material, and I don't know the uh, centroid,
Mm-hmm. The centroids.
centroid that is different in numbers and in coordinates,
Mm-hmm.
but both have uh, centroids.
Okay, okay. So we can sum up this as that a component and assembly are related together because a component is part of an assembly. So
Exactly.
there we could not have assembly if we have no components.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
that's the relation, the connection between the two terms, components and assembly. Now I'm going to show you a picture about a assembly. Actually, it's a tool, but this tool, it's an assembly. Look at it. We have a replacement jaw. You see, this is a tool. This
Mhm.
is, in this case, an assembly.
Mhm.
Okay.
Why? Because we have different components. You can
Mhm.
see the replacement jaw, the spring, the pin, the knurl. So anything that we just assemble together, that we put together, becomes an assembly. Okay, and each part of that tool, each part of that machine, of that system, it's a component that in general cases, if we take out a component, then the assembly would not work correctly, or maybe would not function.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't know if you agree with me.
Yes, but it's important organize the components
Mhm.
when I need to explain that system or that assembly. It's necessary to organize
Uh-huh.
each component in the assembly.
Exactly.
It's
Yes, and
interesting.
for in this case, it's important to say that we just have one assembly, not sub-assemblies,
Uh-huh.
also
Ex-
assembly levels.
okay. Okay, I agree with that. And this lead us to another two questions, because this unit is a lot of questions. What is meant by shapes and features now? What do you understand by shapes and features, Josue?
Uh, Futures, well, it both words have a relation because the shapes has features,
Okay, yes.
and so like the cylindrical, it's a
Uh-huh.
shape. It's a shape, but the origin is one feature. For
Mm-hmm.
example, the thread for
Mm-hmm.
a screw.
Okay.
Um,
The pen, stuff like that.
for example, it has a feature, the helical dial
Mm-hmm.
feature.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Do you agree with that, Juan?
Well, for me, it's similar the idea.
Mm-hmm.
When I have been when I have working with one component,
Mm-hmm.
I see that the shapes. I mean, the shape is like a square or triangle or
Mm-hmm.
circle.
Okay.
Uh, I don't know, different
Mm-hmm.
aspects or shapes. And the
Mm-hmm.
future for me is that characteristics or characteristics or materials that the components has is
It's
make
made of.
is
Uh-huh.
made of, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important the features in the components because they work with the assembly
Okay.
for the assembly for function. I mean, in this case, each system is
Mm-hmm.
necessary. The material that it is make make
Uh-huh.
or is make and I think that's it. No, I think
Okay.
that's it. It is important.
Mm-hmm. And I think that we can sum up that the connection between the two of them, that means shapes and features, it's similar to the connection between the components and the assemblies. That a feature is part of a shape.
Yes,
Yes.
and he said a keywords.
Mm-hmm. Which
Uh,
ones?
well, or something like that.
Okay.
And in fact, the shape follows the
Mm-hmm.
function ever.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You mean always.
Okay,
Okay.
always.
So I have an example in here. Look at it.
Hmm.
This is a shape, isn't it? It's square. In a
Square.
two-dimensional, in a two-dimensional term, it's a square. In a 3D, it's a cube, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nowadays, yes,
And
yes.
this, of course, this is a shape. Now, the shape, it's divided in features. It has a face. Well, in this case, if it's a cube, it has 6 different faces. It has
Hmm.
an edge. It has a vertex or a corner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is a a good example of something that we know as a shape and its features. Mhm. So all these four keywords, the components, the assembly, the shape, and the features, we're going to use them to help us describe our tools, to help us describe our, in this case, our machines, okay, or what we are working with. So that's the main idea of this one. Mhm. So I think that you understand well this introduction. So let's begin with the unit at all.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna change my screen to the book so that you can look at your book now.
Okay.
Are you looking now at the book?
Yep.
Okay, so as you can see, it's the same what I talked before in the PowerPoint presentation, components and assembly. Now, before we start, I want you to think about electrical plugs, like your cell phone chargers, the I don't know, the shaker connection, the microwave, the fridge, the TV. Think
Yeah.
about
Okay.
that electrical plug and the sockets, of course. What about the area? I mean, are they different according to the country?
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
So what do you know about that? What do you know about electrical plugs and the difference between countries? For example, here in Mexico and in Spain, that means Europe. So
Mhm.
what's the difference? Is there a difference in an electrical
Yes,
plug?
yes. There are differences between continents and countries.
Uh-huh.
Well, I maybe I can see it in Brazil. In Brazil, it's different. The plugs. The plugs is has a three pins. I think
Okay.
it's 3 pins, and here could be 3 pins, but the plug is different.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
We can say that maybe we have 3 pins as in
yeah.
Brazil, but the order or the shape is
Yes. Yes.
different,
Exactly.
isn't
Exactly.
it? Uh-huh. That's what I want you
Yeah.
to know. To use that vocabulary, the shapes, the features. I
Shape.
mean, it's the same, but in a different shape.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So I'm gonna show you just like a spoiler. Let me go back. You see, we have
Spoiler.
6 different electrical plugs. Look at them.
Yes.
Do you see them, Josue?
Yes, of course.
Uh-huh. Have you used, I think that we all are accustomed to letter A. I think it's,
Yes.
I'm gonna say it's the
Yes.
Mexican connection. Of course, it's
Yeah.
not the Mexican, but I'm gonna
Yes.
say
It's
it's the
normal for me.
Mexican connection. Yes, it's normal for us. No, but you
Mhm.
can see that we have some more crazy electrical plugs and sockets.
Exactly. A little bit
There's
is
letter E looks like a happy face.
a happy face.
You see? So,
The socket is happy face.
so do you have any
Yes.
idea of where do we use these other connections?
Yeah. Some things.
For example,
The,
letter C, you
let me
may
No.
know
s-
it's the one that they use in Europe, in Spain and
Yes.
stuff like
Yes. In
that.
Europe. Europe
Hmm.
and Europe is letter E. I think so. Or
Yes, could
letter
be. Of
B.
course, we're going
Letter
to
E.
match them later, but with other words. Okay, that was a spoiler of this unit. So
Mhm.
in this case, to start having a good introduced these components and features and assemblies, um, you are gonna listen a conversation between, a conversation between Jan and some engineering colleagues, okay? Jan is
Mhm.
a project manager for a firm that manufactures electrical plugs and sockets. Let's imagine, I don't know, Josue, tell me if I'm wrong. It's like Schneider. They produce electrical things.
Components. Yes.
So let's imagine that Jan is the project manager of Schneider. Mhm.
Okay.
To have like a better example of this one. So Jan is
Yeah.
talking with his colleagues, with his engineering colleagues. You're going to listen to the briefing and summarize aim of the project. What's the aim of the project? It's the objective, okay? The mission, the vision of the project, what they want to get
Mhm.
of the project. So listen to
It is like
these.
a.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, it is like a assessment. Maybe one assessment to the project
Yes,
or
we could say
IM.
it's an
Yes.
assessment. Yes, it's the aim of that.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
let's listen to Jan's brief and summarize conversation. Mhm. I think
Hmm.
I play for you to listen. Let me see. Yes. Okay. Listen carefully to the audio. It's just 1 minute.
Mhm.
Listen carefully.
3.4.
Oh no, it's not that one. Hold a second. It's this one. Let me find this one.
3.1. When you look at the various types of plugs and sockets in different countries, most designs have a basic layout that's existed for decades, in terms of the way the pins are laid out and the profile of the pins. And as a manufacturer, The position of our company has always been, basically, to accept that we're stuck with several standard configurations and to effectively say to customers, we produce all the main formats, take whichever one you want. However, as I'm sure you know, many countries use plugs and sockets of more than one format, and this leads to a comparative situation, with some configurations becoming more popular and others progressively being abandoned. This is particularly true in countries undergoing rapid economic expansion. And because of this process of selection, we are finding that big customers are increasingly asking us which of the standard plug and socket formats in current use we recommend as a manufacturer, which are the best from a technical standpoint. Up until now, we haven't had a standardized company policy to allow us to respond to that question properly. But this project aims to formulate a company policy that allows us to say these are the configurations we recommend, and these are the technical reasons why we recommend them.
Okay. In this part, I want you to tell me the aim. What's the aim of the project? What did you understand? Or do you need me to play it just one more time? I don't know what you need. If you need to play it one more time, or that's okay.
Yes, I think he talked about the different formats in the plugs or different formats.
Configurations.
Configuration, yes, according to
Okay.
configurations.
So what is the aim of the project? To what? To do what? What do they want to do?
I think recommend one configuration that the company need in his job site or application.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, Josue, do you have any comments about that?
I prefer to repeat it.
Okay, I'm gonna play the listening just one more time. Listen carefully to it.
3.1.
When you look at the various types of plugs and sockets in different countries, most designs have a basic layout that's existed for decades, in terms of the way the pins are laid out and the profile of the pins. And as a manufacturer, the position of our company has always been, basically, to accept that we're stuck with several standard configurations and to effectively say to customers, we produce all the main formats, take whichever one you want. However, as I'm sure you know, many countries use plugs and sockets of more than one format, and this leads to a comparative situation, with some configurations becoming more popular and others progressively being abandoned. This is particularly true in countries undergoing rapid economic expansion. And because of this process of selection, we are finding that big customers are increasingly asking us which of the standard plug and socket formats in current use we recommend as a manufacturer, which are the best from a technical standpoint. Up until now, we haven't had a standardized company policy to allow us to respond to that question properly. But this project aims to formulate a company policy that allows us to say these are the configurations we recommend, and these are the technical reasons why we recommend them.
So he said that he wants or he'd prefer to make or unified and standard. So he works for a company that has different configuration or standards according to the countries and standard or norms.
Okay.
And for the production, they could have more configuration, but just maintain the main standards according to the countries. But
Okay.
he said that he wants to prefer just one standard unified.
Okay. So we can sum that. Maybe you can write it down in the blank space that you have. I'm gonna write it too. That the aim of the project, I'm gonna write it. The aim of the project, as you said, is to formulate a policy that will state which plug,
Mhm.
in this case, well, and socket, of course,
Mhm.
which plug and socket configurations, configurations, their company recommends, and of course, explain the technical issues.
Okay.
So this is the aim of the project. I don't know if you're able to write that in a
Mhm.
space that you have in there.
Mhm.
Tell me when you finish writing so that I can erase it.
You can erase. Uh, you you give me
Uh-huh.
the video, right? The video to the final of session. Yes.
Yes.
To the final
Yes, I'm
session.
gonna give it to you.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Josue, ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let me erase it. Great. So, now, this is a pair work. In letter B, they tell us to discuss, and I'm gonna highlight it with my spotlight. In pair, discuss what is mean or what do you understand by profile of the pins and a standard configuration. What do you understand by profile of the pins and standard configuration? Two different topics, okay? I want to know the point of view of each of you, please. What is the profile of the pins and what means standard configuration for you? Talking, of course, about electrical sockets and plugs.
Uh, it maybe it can be about the arrangement or configuration. If I have one plug with I don't know with head rectangular or cylindrical, the organization of pins is different to the others plugs. No,
Okay.
I think that's uh, in this question.
Okay, and what about the standard configuration you said?
Uh, okay. Uh, the configuration depend on of the shape. I mean, well, in this case, rectangular in my normal case, in
Okay.
the block rectangular. Maybe it could be circular, and like a letter B, like letter B is circular with two pins.
Okay.
Another arrangement could be, I don't know, triangular.
Okay.
Uh, make me maybe that, no, maybe that in this case.
Okay, thank you. What about you,
Oh,
Josue? The profile of the pins and standard configuration.
So the pins, it depends about the norms, electrical norms in different countries. For example, the for us is the first one,
Okay.
and so I'm I prefer obviously the first one,
yes.
but in obviously well for, for if I select another one, so we should change our actual plugins.
Okay,
And
yes.
um, but but I'm saying that I agree with that idea to unify it at a standard, but I prefer the first one or just one. It,
Uh-huh.
in well, in addition, to another topics on another cables with the same issue is the USB cable. The Europe Union wants to establish the USB Type C as
As a standard configuration now for cell phones.
internationally,
Okay.
not just by the cell phone, for any other device and PC, laptops, or something like that. All
It's
electronic
something.
components.
It's something that is happening now with some laptops that they charge using the Type C.
Yes, yes,
And
includes for the element, by the power
the
for
power, yes.
charge your laptop.
Yes, of course, it happens to that too. Great. Okay, that was
This
great.
case, I think in this case, all is exactly similar, the similar function in the old blocks, right? It's a similar
Yes.
function.
Yes, it's the same. So the profile of the pins means the shape of the individual pins. For example, if it's a rectangular cross-section, a circular cross-section, etc. And the standard configuration means a uniform arrangement. That means, for example, in a given country, all the plugs have been a standard layout. That means that they are exactly the same, like here in Mexico.
Okay.
Great. Now, before we continue to letter C, I'd like you to connect again to another session, okay? Because this one, it's less than a minute. Yes? So go ahead, please.